There is 7 different deadly sins according to the holy men above, and today we'll be figuring out which Roblox developer fits each sin. Subscribe to become OP. Starting with gluttony, the sin for over-excessive indulgence in food or resources. And I think the perfect group of Roblox developers to describe this perfectly is Do Big Studios, one of the most indulgent companies currently residing on the Roblox platform, as they eat up all the games and ruin them with their scummy practices little by little. Their biggest games being some of the most controversial and widely loved, started with the fact that they basically started this whole steal a brain rot, grow a whatever trend, with their biggest games both being Steal a Brain Rot and Grow a Garden. Ironically, Steal a Brain Rot is literally a copy of another slop game by the name of Steal a Character. What has this godforsaken platform come to? Now, Grow a Garden is hands down the biggest Roblox game of all time. They bought shares of this game from Shondell, but despite them only having about 25% or 1/4 of the game owned, this would still net them millions of dollars in profit from this game since it's so massively successful and popular. But no, Do Big still has to keep overindulging and buying up shares in nearly every popular game they see reach #1. And soon after purchasing Grow a Garden, they also bought Steal a Brain Rot. Now, I will never understand the appeal of Steal a Brain Rot, maybe because I'm not 5 and I don't watch AI generated memes as content for hours at a time. Like seriously, if you're over the age of 14 and unemployed still watching stuff like this, we may need to have a talk about your life decisions soon. Steal a Brain Rot's premise is simple. You steal brain rot characters as they walk along the conveyor belt, and you put them inside your base for more cash that you therefore spend on other brain rots or weapons in the game. I feel so disgusting even describing this game, bro. I don't know what it is. Like, and people, I guess, can also steal each other brain rots from their base. It also shares the same mechanic as Grow a Garden, where you leave and your cash still is being generated, which is a big selling point for the game, I assume. But even this game nets Do Big millions of dollars as well, since they own a pretty big share in Steal a Brain Rot, and this game averages like millions of players now as well somehow. Oh my god. I want to say it's botted, but not gonna lie, I think Roblox's player base is just being infiltrated by kids living in Brazil. Like, look at this video of them in a computer lab all playing the same thing like there's some sort of AI. Like, how is this even addicting besides making kids cry over AI generated slot memes? But Grow a Garden, I can kind of understand why it's so popular due to the simple nature of the game and how easy it is to come back to and play as the game updates every week. But with this game, you grow different plants and watch them grow as time passes, which would have been a cool idea if it was a little bit more intricate. I mean, the game literally 90% of the time is just you waiting around for mutations for hours, which simply to me isn't fun because I like to actually be stimulated while playing a video game, not almost falling asleep waiting for something to happen. But I guess millions of players don't think like I do, so I can't really argue against it. We are just different people, I guess. Before Grow a Garden and Steal a Brain Rot, they also bought out Fish, which resulted in that game's downfall because of their obscene amounts of greed. But with the Fish situation, that shows the effect that they could have on games, and most of the games they own. I mean, Do Big is making millions just off their shares in Grow a Garden and Steal a Brain Rot, and if we count up all the games Do Big owns, it comes out to 52 freaking games. They even own games that are copies of their other games that they also own. How much more does Do Big need before they decide to stop buying up games on the platform? If we had like an image of Do Big, like I imagine them as like the queso of Roblox. They just eat up everything. And in my opinion, this is why Do Big Studios is the prime example of gluttony on the Roblox platform. Next up is wrath, which is the sin for uncontrolled anger / abuse and a desire for revenge. And I think the perfect developers for this is of course GameFam, one of the shadiest groups of developers to ever enter the Roblox platform. In their short history on the platform, they were accused of not only ruining games on the platform by purchasing them, but also abusing their developers with horrible work conditions and not paying them what they were owed after working grueling hours for them, and also infiltrating the Roblox anime community and almost destroying anime games on the platform as we know it. I'm sure we all remember the whole anime adventure situation, and no, I'm not talking about them absolutely fumbling their re-release. But the reason they had to shut down for over a year in the first place. Basically, GameFam went and brought copyrights for My Hero and a few other animes and started copyright striking games on the platform. This included games like Anime Fighting Simulator, Anime Adventures, My Hero Mania, and the list goes on and on. This caused an absolute uproar in the community as GameFam unleashed their wrath onto the platform in one fateful week. I like how dramatic I'm making it sound, by the way. It really wasn't that serious. But yeah, GameFam absolutely scared the living hell out of all Roblox anime players. Another game they ruined was Military Tycoon, which surprisingly surprisingly actually had a decent community that hated literally every single change GameFam added, which eventually led to the downfall of the game, and to this day they're still adding these things to the game, which is insane. But eventually GameFam sort of calmed down after all the backlash they were getting after they released My Hero Battlegrounds, an absolute catastrophe of a game that showed that GameFam weren't great developers at all and should stick to buying shares in already made games like Sonic Speed Simulator, which I hope they haven't ruined by now, but they most likely already have. Next we have greed, which is a sin for excessive desire for material wealth or possessions. But the developers I think fits this sin the absolute best is, of course, big games. Pretty much the most controversial and hated developers on the Roblox platform of all time. Now, big games didn't always have this level of hate. They used to actually be a well-respected development group, but nowadays it's clear they're just focused on milking kids out of their Robux and cash, with Preston leading this greediness with an iron fist. Now, we all know big games is mainly known for the Pet Simulator series, which are heavily monetized pay-to-win simulator games that heavily rely on RNG-based eggs and gambling systems that keep kids addicted in the scummiest way possible. But what if I were to tell you that they were also stealing ideas from other games like Souls RNG, for example, with their game Pets Go, which if you've never seen or played Pets Go, good. You are avoiding one of the most boring and pay-to-win games on the site. Pets Go is exactly what it sounds like, an RNG game where the main mechanic is you opening up eggs for rare pets that you can flex on your friends. I mean, connections now on Roblox. Can we please fire David Baszucki, by the way? This guy's going crazy. But yeah, Pets Go arguably is the prime example of greed on Roblox. This game is pretty much Pet Simulator, but somehow worse. I am happy that Pets Go eventually died off due to the RNG trend on Roblox heavily declining in popularity. The trend that came after, of course, being the Still A trend, which Preston couldn't wait to get his greedy little hands on, with his next project being Still a Pet. Wow, who could have predicted that Preston would hop on the brain rot trend as well? As if he wasn't soulless enough, this game is a direct one-to-one copy of this Still a Brain Rot games, plastered all over the Roblox front page. But of course with the Pet Simulator Pets, because he can't even come up with original designs for his games, so he just takes assets from Pet Simulator and copies it to another slop game. And if you thought he couldn't do the same with Grow a Garden, well, he tried but was met with immediate backlash. Good job, community, good job. And yes, I'm aware it wasn't technically against TOS to copy an idea, but Big Games is pretty much some of the worst developers when it comes to making actually good games that don't involve milking players. Not to mention Preston and Big Games literally copyright claimed other games that use squarish pets, like Seed and Pet Simulator, notably Bee Simulator and Mining Simulator, trying to basically take out competition for something as harmless as adding pets when you yourself are the greediest developer on the platform is a level of narcissism I never want to reach as a human being. And when you have a YouTuber like Creekcraft calling you up publicly after they literally copied the game's artwork, that being Untitled Boxing Game, that should really say something about you, as Creekcraft being one of the most positive influences in the Roblox space. I agree with him, by the way, Preston. You are a you know how to do it too. With everything being said, Preston is obviously capable of creating a good game, but he and his team aren't interested in throwing away their greedy practices anytime soon. Not to mention his recent game Pet Simulator 99 is his 4th Pet Simulator game after basically scamming his community out of thousands of Robux by discontinuing the other ones and wiping their data in yet another Pet Simulator game, which is why Preston and Big Games are the embodiment of the sin of greed. Next is lust, the sin of seeking pleasure in a way that devalues or disrespects another person. And there are many, and I mean many, Roblox developers that fit this category, but ultimately the biggest one being the previous owner and lead dev of Forsaken Soul Driven Love. Now this situation unfortunately is a very common thing within the Roblox developer space. A game, in this case being Forsaken, becomes popular and then shortly after the main developer gets exposed for some really weird things. Soul Driven Love was exposed for sending explicit content of into a Discord server, and that's pretty much the only thing I need to say from there. After this whole wildfire of allegations were thrown on his name, including supporting not firing a known PDF from his team, spreading inappropriate images of and also creating NSF artwork of said to harass him and use his friends to cover up his actions and multiple lies. And that ended up exiling him from the platform for good. But before this, he ended up selling Forsaken for over $2 million to the current development team, completely running away from these allegations and leaving the platform entirely. Unfortunately, there is a lot of developers like Soul Driven Love who have abused their power to destroy people's lives and control others as well. Forsaken unfortunately unfortunately is just one of those games that also has a very weird community in general, where there's been lots of cases of PDF activity being engaged actively in the community due to how sexual Forsaken's community has gotten. And this is a Roblox game. He even is trying to return, which is why Roblox should IP ban this guy immediately, and that's why Soul Driven Love is the best answer for the sin of loss, as he let it control him and ruined any future he had of him being a trusted Roblox developer. Now onto the sin of sloth, which is described as neglecting of one's duties and responsibilities and just pure laziness. Lots, and I mean lots, of developers can fit here, mainly developers in the Roblox anime community, but the one development group I just have to have here is Block Zone. Does anyone remember Anime Legends? Yeah, the game that was teased over 4 years ago that went viral. Yeah, that game. Well, yeah, safe to say that that game is never coming out, huh? I feel as if Anime Legends is what started this trend of Roblox developers putting out trailers and sneaks and hyping up games only to have them actually never release in the long run, with Anime Legends probably being the most infamous one, with it probably being the first true example of this. Basically what happened to Anime Legends is simple. The game wasn't actually real to begin with, but instead a false game to build hype for the eventual re-release of Anime Fighting Simulator X, which is a sequel to Anime Fighting Simulator, and their other game Anime Warriors, which was obviously two complete cash grabs that Block Zone wanted to create, but unfortunately didn't actually work out in the long run, since both games are dead in the water. Block Zone since has stated Anime Legends is still in development, which we all know now is probably a lie, since the game 100% isn't being worked on anymore, because allegations came out that the Block Zone devs basically wasted all the money on a house and a few other things outside of the game, leading to where we are now, where over 4 years later, after the viral trailer and years of speculation, led to basically nothing, which is why Block Zone are the perfect devs for the sin of sloth. Next up is pride, the sin for the belief that one is superior to others. I know a lot of Roblox developers like that, but ultimately I went with Aspector. Is the sin of pride due to his transgressions against his own community. He is the developer of Realm Rampage and other Battlegrounds games he has since abandoned, and that's probably also due to his inability to humble himself. Screenshots of him belittling his community in his Discord were out there, and it's clear this guy doesn't give a damn about his community, as he constantly berated them in the most condescending way possible just because he's a developer on Roblox. A horrible one at that. Doesn't mean he is better than anyone, including his community that actually supports his games and actually lines his pockets to make these games in the first place, by the way. Not sure if he forgot. And he is known for abandoning projects because he feels like he can, which is another form of pride and narcissism that I think a lot of other Roblox developers share with this guy. Not much else to say. Aspector is a cancer to most of his games, and I'm so glad he is gone from Realm Rampage, which still didn't save that game, by the way, because he basically caused this game to be on its deathbed in the first place. Lastly, we have the sin of envy, which is the jealousy of others, and I think this has to go to Boss Studios specifically because of their game, a One Piece game. Basically, this is supposed to be a One Piece game, but if you look at the multitude of game passes, you might actually think it's an all anime RPG, where they just have so many different characters and stuff from other anime in this so-called One Piece game. And I think the boss just got envious of other games and wanted to add all these different characters and these overpriced game passes that eventually, unfortunately, killed the game. Of course, he went on to buy out Anime Last Stand and Anime Fighters, ALS being basically a copy of every other anime tower defense game ever. It's just a little bit better than those games, and Anime Fighters just kind of sucked in my opinion, and it was super pay to win due to it being a simulator game. But yeah, AOPG was ruined due to the boss not actually caring about what he was adding to the game. Not like a One Piece game was good to begin with, but that's besides the point. The Boss Studios is the embodiment of envy. But if you guys enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more content like this one, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.